The Spirituality Now podcast is sponsored by Delaflor Teachings International, a spiritual and systemic coaching and consulting company with the mission to help individuals, businesses, and corporations create brilliant futures through sustainable transformation. Also sponsored by the Network for Human Empowerment, a philanthropic TV network that serves Spanish-speaking communities with free, conscious education aimed to empower individuals to become the best versions of themselves.
Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast, a podcast committed to supporting you in your journey to life mastery and personal enlightenment. Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast, a very practical spirituality, a non-profit podcast that is sponsored by Delaflor Teachings International, a spiritual and systemic coaching and consulting and mentorship companies serving from entrepreneurs, companies, media, one-on-one individuals, whatever it is, to help you really create a more integrated, holistic, practical, in the here and now and mindful life. And we're also directed and produced by Authority Syndication Marketing as in media. Those are the only sponsors and producers that we have. And remember, we do this with the purpose of giving the stage to our guests. So we're not promoting a lot of stuff. We're not confusing. We're not here for marketing purposes. We're here really to share incredible individuals, their incredible wisdom minds. You know, it is said that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And the Spirituality Now podcast, we're investing time with incredible luminaries, people really focused, whether in business, family, in systems, in money, spirituality. We're bathing in the conscious field that everybody produced, that, being human is just a really incredible spiritual experience. Anywho, enough of me. You get to hear about me and for me and of me every week almost. I'm going to introduce you to my guest. Is one of another God-sent, spirit-sent guests that I get to meet through the podcast. So I'm very, very blessed. And I'm going to introduce her to you. My beloved guest's name is Krishna. She is a licensed acupuncturist, certified holistic health coach, Psych K facilitator, pranayama. It reminds me to breathe every time I listen to that word. Pranayama breathwork guide and somatic practitioner who has guided over 24,000 patients and clients to their health and wellness goals for the last 18 years. She currently specializes in something that she calls subconscious transformation. And I love that subconscious transformation is a topic today, because without the subconscious being transformed, or without transformation taking place at the core, how are we going to be able to activate our intuition even deeper and have an integrative, holistic experience of who we are? I love that Krishna, she's known as Krishna Avalon, for the last 18 years or more, not only has helped the thousands of people, but also helping them connect more fully with themselves in turn and the world around them. Her integrative services can guide you into the clarity and brilliance of your own energy, so you can start experiencing the world from a place of authenticity and deep connection that we really needed more than ever. Krishna can teach you the somatic practices that we mentioned, and why the somatic practices. And I'm all about these in our practices to help you regulate your nervous system and restore a feeling of safety in your body. And safety, without safety, I rarely have seen a deep, deep transformation. From this more grounded sense of self, anyone can start seeing their life, your life, and the world with new eyes and endless possibilities, more connected to who you came here to be as the creator of your life and your experience. My beloved Krishna Avalon, welcome, Angel.
Oh my gosh, that was so beautiful. I just had my eyes closed listening to you the whole time and just felt that whole thing in my heart. Thank you.
So let's start, let's start because your work is such a full body of work, right? But I tend to go like very nosy into the past. I time travel from the here and now to the here and there. And then from the here and there, the past, I just put it as a, imaginary step in our imagination. We go time travel to the past. And then from the here and there, we come back to the here and now to go to the here and then, which is an experience of results for your clients what is the transformation that happens with our modalities. But let's go a little bit, Krishna, if you don't mind, time travel to the here and there into little Krishna, that because I'm always in awe. Who is Krishna? Who's her inner child? What did Krishna had to live in order for her to embody this mastery and this being and becoming someone that serves so many thousands of people, empower, get deeper connection with themselves and transform their lives. Tell us a little bit about little Krishna, the history on how you became who you are today.
Well, it's very beautiful to be able to talk about this now, not as a story that I'm in that is painful or triggering or I'm unconscious of, but something that I've learned to be my spiritual lessons and my teachings in this life. And so, it started out, I came into my mother's womb in a very unconscious way. My mother was not conscious when I was conceived. She was kind of passed out as she told the story. And so she wasn't consensual to the way that I was conceived. And my mother was very young when this happened. And as you know, when we are in utero, we start receiving the messages through the DNA, the nervous system of our mothers, and what they were going through, their stories while they were pregnant with us. And so my mom has a very large Catholic family. I grew up in the Midwest of the United States. And my grandparents, they didn't know what to do with my mom. And so they kicked her out of town and told her that she couldn't come back until she had a husband. And so all of those things from the beginning of my conception were that my mother had to learn what it was like to be kicked out of the tribe, to not be accepted, to be afraid and on her own. And so all of that came through to me. And then me being the person who was really like a lot of shame and non-acceptance and sort of like something that wasn't really talked about, but the elephant in the room. My biological father is Filipino. And so I was the only brown person in my ginormous white Catholic family. And also that was never really talked about. And so I came into this world having to navigate all those things, like trusting who I am, feeling safe to be who I am, that I have to be taught to be something else and try to fit in to where I didn't belong. And then having to really unconsciously process a lot of my mom's shame and unconsciousness and trying to fit in where she didn't belong too. And just really always being very confused because I was very like pretty and popular and had a lot of friends, but also had all this other reinforcement of shame and of like you have to be a certain way or you're not going to be accepted, and because of the Catholic upbringing too, for anybody who understands religious upbringing, especially as a woman, being taught to always give and give and give, to be a good mother or a good person or a good woman. And so those are just some of the basics. And so a lot of confusion, in addition to being taught to fit in where I didn't belong, always saying yes, never learning how to say no, being kicked out of the tribe. And my grandparents, I adore. I love them so much, and honestly never experienced anything but love from them. They were so good to me. I miss them incredibly. But they didn't know any better. My mom didn't know any better. And so it was a process in my life, first with acupuncture school. That was the first thing that I found for me that I committed to and just trusted 100% and followed. And then the second thing was becoming a mom. It was very natural. I trusted, I followed. And then the third thing was this subconscious work. And for me, the pranayama breath work, which is very, very big and powerful, clears trapped emotion out of your body, whether it's yours or your lineage. That was very opening for me and created a lot more spaciousness inside of myself. And then I found the work of Psych K, which started working with my subconscious beliefs. And as you know, it's really in our subconscious beliefs that we create life from. And most of us don't even know
Yes.
that we are in very limited, self-sabotaging, limited beliefs. And they're usually around not feeling worthy and deserving of love or healthy relationship or life that feels enjoyable. So all that to say, big lessons that I had to learn, integrate, and thank gods I found the tools, because a lot of people don't, that I could start expanding my self-worth and what I deserve, and that I am inherently worthy just for who I am. I didn't need to be somebody else ever.
I love this. I love this, Krishna. And let me go back a little bit. This is very deep, Usually, our guests are always so transparent and they take us into a journey of real authenticity and vulnerable places because, I've worked in family constellations for more than 20 years in a modality called healthy bonding and attachment in the womb. I do rebirthing. So when you said that your initiation into humanity, right, into being conceived in a womb of a woman that did not, it was not consensual, the conception moment. I can only imagine, right? If I try it on, if I vest myself, with the experience, I can feel not only the shame and the loss, but also all the of the human dynamics, right? The human dynamics, the unconscious dynamics that play in family systems, in hidden loyalties, in family secrets, and in religious indoctrinations that tell you, "Hey, my daughter, you know, conceived a child, even though she didn't, she was not part of that. We don't want that shame in our system." So, wow, we're dealing with a lot of belief systems, and I'm so glad that for and you are you're gorgeous outside and inside, and but that was able to, I do tea ceremonies, and one of the most important aspects of the tea meditation ceremony is like you have to let the tea steep on the water enough time, not long but neither too short, so that you can benefit from the benefits of the tea leaf itself. And sometimes I see our lives like that, right? We're being brewed into becoming a healing tea for ourselves and others. And I think that happened to you. So I'm really I'm honored that you are here, and I'm honored the sanctity and sacredness that you share this experience that for a lot of us, and I'm sure it was for you at a time. It's a lot of pain, and I'm going to move into, because you already moved us into the awareness of the subconscious mind, because right now, it really, you can have all the knowledge, accumulation of data, accumulation of, pray 100 times, do mantras, do whatever you want. If you don't transform from deep within in the subconscious mind, I mean, there's no sustainability. So tell us a little bit. Let's start in the transformation aspect. Let's start in the subconscious transformation that I actually know that you do coaching. Tell us about what is subconscious transformation and how can it help people.
Yeah, well, the subconscious mind creates 90 to 95% of our lives. So just that alone is incredible. And so when I started learning about the subconscious, it was just like a light bulb went off as soon as I started hearing about it. And then when I heard about Psych K, I was like, ding, something went online and was like, you need to follow this, because the subconscious holds our beliefs, it holds our habits, it holds our memories, and it's where we're on autopilot. So the subconscious is like I don't like comparing us to computers at all, but the subconscious is like the hard drive. And then the conscious mind is what we feed into that hard drive. So it would be like what we're typing on the computer, on the keyboard to put into that hard drive. And so you don't necessarily need to know what your subconscious beliefs are to work with me in this process that I've been trained in. For instance, you just have to know, where am I stuck and creating life like in these repeated ways that are not desirable and that I feel like so frustrated that I can't move on from, or you feel like triggered or angry or like upset by something so much you can't even think about it, maybe because it's so painful. Those are perfect things to work with in the subconscious. You can also know in your life where you want to grow, whether it's creatively, whether it's in your relationships, in the amount of pleasure you experience. I work with a lot of people who want to feel more connection, which is not surprising. It's the number one thing that human beings are here for. It's also what we're most terrified of. And then to get connection, you have to create beliefs that it's safe to be present and that you are present. If you've only been shown, and your experience has only been, for instance,
Yes.
that you can't connect or that you're going to get rejected, that's what you're going to keep repeating over and over and over. So we work with this process. It's extremely simple. You're entirely conscious the whole time. So it's not like hypnotherapy. And then there is a specific process and different what we call balances that you would do depending on what your goals are. And it's incredible. It's so simple that sometimes you're like, what? Could it be that simple? But in my own heart and what I'm drawn to the most is like the simple things are really like the biggest medicine. And so that was another thing that really drew me to this process. I don't love the name Psych K at all. And so when you do a few of these sessions, you literally are transforming your subconscious. So I call it subconscious transformation.
I love that. I love that because you say that it reframes the body. I love that what you say, it reframes the body reaction to the past, present, and future stressors. I mean, talking about being prepared, like very few people think like this, right? They think like, I gotta reframe from the past. Well, wait, what about the present? How about the future? I love this. When I read that about you, I was like, oh, I love this. And so how like, you walk me through a process like this, and then we'll talk about the modality itself, and we'll talk about you're also an acupuncturist, and I love that you are intuitive. I'm curious about that, but let's talk about this. So you say that the stressors from past, present, and future, and I love that you say peacefully unattached from them. Why is unattachment important? How does that feel? Like, what have you seen? What type of people have you helped? Like, give us a couple of examples. Like, there was this lady, obviously respecting the privacy of clients, but what does the feeling of unattachment, right? Which sounds Buddhist too, right? Non-attachment or get disengaged or non-entangled anymore with these stressors. How does that look like?
Yeah. Well, you can imagine anything that is just occupying too much of your headspace, even if it's not your deepest, darkest trauma, but you're on repeat. Maybe you're in a feedback loop with something. You just can't move on. Or maybe it's an unconscious thing and you're like, how come every relationship I end up with ends up like this, that, or the other? Maybe you're rejected. Maybe you pick people emotionally unavailable. Maybe, I don't know, you make things messy in some way. So you look at like any of those things that has been stressful in the past, or maybe is stressing you out right now, or like the future. Maybe you have a huge presentation, or you have to speak in front of people, or you are going on a date and you haven't been on it. It can be past, present, or future, however big or little you feel that stress is. It's just like I usually guide people to what is the thing that is occupying the most of your headspace right now, or that you're repeating in your life that you don't want to repeat. And so there is a balance called the transformation of stress or trauma. And the goal of that balance is to create a peaceful unattachment so that you can come off of that. I call it like a well-oiled track or that clear path in the forest. It's clear because you've taken it a bazillion times. It doesn't mean that it's good for you. And it doesn't mean that that story that you're in is even true. It just means that
Exactly.
that's what's familiar and you keep doing over and over. So the balance creates neuroplasticity, which means your brain's ability to change and have a new experience. It creates neuroplasticity by creating a new path in your mind so that you can have a new experience. And so when you look back on that stress or you're in the present moment, it's not like making you sick or causing trigger or causing you upset, or you're so avoidant of it because it's painful. You're just kind of like, oh yeah, that happened. Or, oh yeah, I do have to do that. And you just move on. So
Wow,
that,
I'm making notes. I'm making notes. I love. There's a calmness in your voice. I guess that all of the work you've done, right? Like it's like you're giving an energetic massage as you speak. But I
oh,
love that you say that, peacefully unattached from the triggering events. And that creates the freedom from sabotage, correct? From self sabotage. And it gives it, I imagine that it brings us new eyes to see, as you have shared. So you use the psych key. I have heard about it before, but I have never really studied. I think a couple of the people that we invited have spoken about it, but very briefly. So tell us a little bit about this modality, the Psych K, right?
yeah.
Psych K, is that? Mhm.
Yeah. And it's just like with any modality, no facilitator is going to be the same, right? Like I
Right.
had a session with my teacher, my first session that I ever had a psyche, and I actually did not feel any different because she
Huh.
wasn't my facilitator. She was not my space holder. And I feel like this
Oh,
work and any work, if we feel safe and if we feel
yes.
seen and if we feel heard, I mean, that
Mm.
is so much of the healing. And so, my teacher, she's amazing. And she taught me all 4 levels of my training here in this house that I ended up actually buying. She taught here for 12 years and lived here for 25 before she retired and moved to Mexico. And I bought her house. But she was not my facilitator. And so
Oh,
that's fine. But with me, when people come to see me, it does help to have an intuitive person, because if you are being seen and heard, somebody's going to be able to guide you to the right balance and then help you come up with, there's a goal statement balance as well. And that's where we are literally creating new beliefs in the subconscious, because if the subconscious doesn't have the belief that you wish to be creating life from, it will not happen. This is entirely different than your conscious mind being like, I deserve this much money, I deserve to be treated like this by so and so. That's your conscious mind. If your subconscious mind
mm.
is contracted or limited and is like, no, you do not, because you've never had that experience and it's never been shown to you, that's what you will continue to create. So, in either balance, and I kind of forgot what what your question was.
No, this is perfect. This is perfect.
We use the balances for whatever the goal is. And
Yes.
usually I'm getting to like 2, sometimes 3 balances in a session, which is a lot. And that is because I'm intuitive and we kind of get to a person's goal. And you can show up with your goals, or you can show up and you're like, I'm not quite sure which direction to go. It doesn't matter. You show up and we talk about it and we get there. But
Mm.
we muscle test to get a clear yes and no from the
Oh, you do
subconscious.
muscle testing. Okay. Okay,
We
great.
do in a specific way too. I
Yeah,
remember the
like
first
kinesiology?
time I remember somebody like a naturopath or something so many years ago doing muscle testing to me and deciding the response. And I was like, this is stupid. But the way we were taught it in Psyche, it actually is very effective. And I was like, oh, okay, this is great. Again, it's so simple that you can't even believe that it works, but it works. And then we go through the balance, and the whole goal of the balance is to create what's called a whole brain state. And that just means that the left and the right hemispheres of the cerebral cortex communicate clearly. And when that happens, that's when the subconscious mind can expand and you can peacefully
Mm.
unattach from a stress or trauma, again, past, present, or future. Or if we're doing a goal statement balance, your subconscious mind expands, and that's when the new belief has been created. And then we muscle
Wow.
test afterwards to make sure that there's been a shift and that someone is in a whole brain state with something that they were not in a whole brain state with before the balance. It's really that simple. And then there's, in the goal statement, there's an action step, which is used to reinforce the new belief. So you create the belief, you create the pathway, you create the possibility through Psych K with a goal statement. And then you want to reinforce that with, it could be a variety of ways, like so many ways, depending on what the goal is. But yeah, we want to reinforce that so that the subconscious knows how to seek that information out in the world to reinforce your new belief.
I love that. I love that you brought this modality, Psych K, and also acupuncture. Tell me, I'm always impressed when anybody learns acupuncture. I don't know if I will have the patience, neither like the courage to put a needle on the meridian point. So tell me about this. How did you got into that? Because I feel that your practice is really holistic, right? It covers like also the physical form and the energetic and the meridians. Tell me about your journey in acupuncture. I find it fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, acupuncture was my first love in this life, and I've been doing that for 20 years. I do still love it. I am totally wanting to move more into coaching, not because I don't love acupuncture. It's just that the subconscious transformation coaching for me is how I can help people feel like the empowered creators of their life. And so sometimes when I'm coaching people, we will do a few Psych K sessions and then maybe get a breath work session in there to like clear some big emotion out of the body, and then maybe do some more Psych K. But acupuncture, I've been doing that since before it was even legal in all of the states. Like I've been doing it a long time. People didn't really know what it was so much when I first found interest in it. And it was my first intuitive call, honestly. It was the first clear path that I followed and just never doubted for one single second. And, I enrolled in acupuncture school before I even had acupuncture. All I did was read this like little quarter-page article about ancient Chinese medicine and how acupuncture could cure back pain and keep people from surgery and drugs. And my mom had just had this terrible bout of vertigo, and all they could do was throw drugs at her. And so I was already kind of, alert to the Western medical system. And I was young at the time. I was like 21 or 22. And so I read that and I was like, oh, what a cool thing to learn. Well, then a couple weeks later, some people came into the restaurant I was working in and they were talking about acupuncture. And again, this was a very long time ago. People didn't just talk about acupuncture. And so it turned out they worked in one of the schools in Seattle where I was living. And so I asked them to recommend a book to me on the theory and how it worked. And they did. And I went and got it right away and I loved it. And then a couple weeks after that, this couple came in and had this very long dinner. And we just had all this rapport right away, just like talked about all these things. We just had a vibe between the three of us. And when they left, they were like, can you come have a drink with us in the bar? And I was like, no, I got to finish up. And they were like, well, what do you do besides work here? And I was like, I know this is really weird because, again, people didn't just talk about acupuncture back then. They're like, but I was like, I think I'm going to go to acupuncture school. And they looked at each other and started laughing. And they were like, should we tell her? And I can still see this in my mind. And they were like, oh, yeah, we're both about to graduate from acupuncture school. And they had come in on like a motorcycle and they were like tattooed, but they were like so peaceful. And again, this was before everybody was trying to like be that now. They were like,
isn't that true, Krishna? You just preach, sister. Yes.
They were like, oh, geez. And so I came to work like the following week. And again, people didn't have cell phones. So it was a message at my work that the guy invited me to a barbecue at their house. And I went and like everybody there was in school or worked there. And I was like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to like be around these people and I'm going to do this. And again, I found out it was like a master's program, $100,000. And I enrolled and I hadn't even had acupuncture yet. So that's how much I was like, yes, I'm doing this. And then I never doubted it. And I've moved all over the place and started up practices. I just sold my business, actually, which is not an easy thing to do either. A really
Yes.
successful practice in another part of town in February because I want to coach more, and I moved to another part of town. And it's because I believed in it all the way. It was like very meant to be as well. Like I just feel like I've been in the healing arts for lifetimes. And so that was my
Yeah,
first
for
love.
lifetimes. That's what I was going to tell you. I think this feels like for lifetimes. It feels I'm talking to, I know you're young, but I'm talking to a really wise elder. Yeah, really
We're
wise
not that
elder. Yeah,
young.
yeah, yeah, you are young. And yeah, what, yeah, tell me. Anyways, so you had also spoken about pranayama breathwork. I mean, how did you arrive to there? If you don't mind me, I know the breath is so important. I have a couple of teachers of the breath. Breathwork has been a modality that just makes sense to me. But tell us about pranayama breathwork. That is also something that is, all inclusive in who you are and how you help people transform at
I
subconscious
know.
levels.
Yes. And I don't do this as much, maybe, as I would like. I
Mm.
kind of guide groups when I'm asked to. I guess I do
Yeah.
end up doing it more than a lot of other practitioners, but it's not something I try to like do. I just do it when I'm asked. But I did guide a session this morning, and every time I do it, I'm reminded about how beautiful this practice is. So back when I was living in Chicago, which was so many years ago, I went to like a, a breathwork event at my friend's house. And I had such a powerful experience just with my breath doing this practice. I went off into, like, immediately into what I call the void, which was just like black nothingness. And I was not conscious on planet Earth anymore. And I woke up to my friend singing and playing guitar, and I just had all the tears of gratitude. And ever since that experience, I was like, I want to do this more and learn this more. Well, I never at that time found my person to teach me. And then occasionally I would kind of ask somebody, like, hey, do you know any breathwork teachers? And the people that were suggested were just not people I was drawn to because I'm picky. And then, yeah, I suppose it was a couple years maybe before pandemic where I tuned into this series of classes with a healer that I love who has guest speakers. And the very first one I tuned into, she was having a breathwork teacher. And I was like, yeah, this is my person. And it turned out I had even met her like lifetimes ago in Seattle. Like I dated her best friend for a minute. And so she was my breathwork teacher, and I did all of those series. And I always knew I wanted to do it for myself, but I knew that's something that I wanted to bring into my practice. And so both the pranayama breathwork and the Psych-K, or subconscious transformation coaching, those can be done virtually as well. And I love that too, because like so many of us with pandemic, I had to shift gears and I had to figure out how I could support myself and my family if I didn't have a clinic open. So I had been wanting to expand and grow for years before pandemic anyway, because I
Right.
have been an extremely successful acupuncturist for a really long time, and growth is important for me. And I wouldn't say that I was crabby or jaded, but I wasn't as inspired as I was in the very beginning. And I was
Yes.
craving that. So these were the things for me that just lit me up and took me to this next phase or level of life as
I love that. Yeah, no, it seems the ripe thing to do, right? Everything has its timing, and it feels like yours. In you being a coach, which is even though if you don't do the acupuncture or the breath work, it's part of who you are. So because I tell you, I'm feeling the peace, the relaxation, the presence of your sharing. There's always a transmission beyond the words of people that that they are not talking the words only. They're being that, right? Is the talking of the walk.
I
So
love that.
I
Yeah.
yeah, I know that intuition is something really powerful, and you said a couple of times intuitive. Um, tell me about that. Tell me about how you truly, and you help people connect with their intuition. But how do you know you are connected with your intuition? What is that feeling? What do you begin to see more of, feel more of? And what do you stop seeing less of and feeling less of? Because it's like I always say that enlightenment, personal realization, embodiment is a game of math. You have to delete a lot of things of who you are not in order to explore, like, this is who I am, this is who I am, this is no longer for me. Like, I love the clarity that you have about, like, this was not my facilitator, this is not my mentor. And then meeting someone and bang, you know. Tell me about that inner knowing, that intuitive awareness and mastery that you have, beloved Krishna.
Oh my goodness. I mean, it took me a long time, Yvonne, to learn how to trust that, or to even know what it was, to not ignore it, to not abandon myself. It took a lot of suffering and a lot of, what I'd call abandoning myself, because that's what I was taught. So for me, my intuition comes through my body. It comes usually through my gut, and it'll come definitely as a yes. And then I always tell people, and even my daughter, who will be 14 next month, like, wait till it's all the way yes. Like, if she's having these crushes that maybe last for 5 minutes, I'm like, you don't need to be like kissing any boys or girls until like it's 100% yes for you, And so it's the same in life
I love
too.
that.
There are like things that I really like, but I'm like, but am I all the way into that? And so that's a practice. And you can practice with your
Wow.
own intuition just in like the food you eat or the tea you're going to drink. If you have a drawer full of tea options like I do, it's like practicing, what do I want right now? And like really checking in. So for me, it comes through my body. Sometimes I'll get like full body goosebumps when something is like a F yes, like, and all the way big
Yes,
yes.
I love you, Krishna. I love that. I'm beginning to, I'm like, oh, this is my sister. This is my sister. Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
I love that too. And that's been such a joy about these podcasts as well, is the
Mm.
fact that for one, Yvonne, like a few years ago, I couldn't even imagine listening to a podcast of myself and like really
Oh.
loving what I heard and being like, that was good. And
I
probably went on like
love that.
40 podcasts in the last couple months. And when I hear them, I'm like, yes, that was
Yes.
the old me. And it's
Oh, I
because I
love
have
that.
like worked with my worthiness and deservingness of feeling safe to be
Yes, yes.
seen, feeling worthy of like my story matters and my voice matters. And then being able to integrate, those places that we have been wounded, integrating them into ourselves so that we are whole. And I've done a lot of work with somatics. So I thank you for what you hear in my voice. And I hear that a lot from people like, oh, your voice is so calm. And it's because I've learned to work with my nervous system as well, which is very
Yes.
important.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. But I do want to highlight, I wish, like that the moms will tell all the daughters, wait till it's a full body yes. I mean, I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to put it in the copy. The full body yes. I
Yeah.
mean, you know how many less people I will have dated? I will have saved my
Same.
time, do more business, be more like productive, probably financially more successful if and when back then I will have felt my full body yes. You reminded me of Oprah Winfrey a little bit. That she was asked one day in an interview, "Hey Oprah, how do you know what to say yes to?" And she thought about it like, oh, what an interesting question. And she says, well, when in doubt, for me, it's a no. And she said that's her modality. That's how she feels in the body. And she said that when I feel a full yes, I know it's a yes. And that's how she has had such incredible business success. She said that when she didn't pay attention, and it was like, I think she called it like like a 30% yes in her body, and then she still say yes. That's when a business turned into a legal battle on television. Like for 2 or 3 years, she almost lost everything she had made. So, to that full body yes, Krishna, I tell to your daughter that she's going to be 14. Listen to your mother.
I hope she does too.
Oh my gosh. So, So I have so many questions for you because but I don't even know where we were going after this. I'm still in the full body yes. Once you say the full body yes, I saw too that you also work with businesses. How obviously after the full body yes, I think and the opera reference people will get it, but tell me how you help businesses. I know that you are a transformational business coach, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I feel that you can use the subconscious to expand
Yes.
any area of your life that you want to grow in. So I have been working with a lot of other practitioners, other acupuncturists who also know I sold my practice, or I've been able to build a practice wherever I go, even after moving, which is not normal. And, people who want to feel more creative or who want to make more money and they know that they can, but they're not. So you work with your subconscious mind and it's going to translate to all areas of your life.
Mm. Wow. That's super powerful. So obviously, we have a couple of more minutes. I do want to run over the fun facts of Krishna. Everyone, Krishna, you can feel it, and I want to pay tribute to you because of your background. Sometimes people take a class and they think they can teach it, but your journey of personal in the inner journey and the outer journey and the education of who you have chosen to become and how you can choose to and how you help people actually transform in a simple way. I love that it's simple. It started from the moment of conception, right? That's why in a modality that we work of transcendental rebirthing, it says that you got to be healthy before you conceive a child. They call it the preconception hall, where the nervous system, everything needs to be really attentive and aware for the moment of conception happens. Is the moment that incredible missions, incredible healers are born, and you were born from a really challenging, where the shame kind of aspect was there, but you birthed yourself as an incredible lotus wisdom keeper, my beloved Krishna. I love it. And now, I want to walk people a little bit more on who Krishna is. And I think you are the first person that when I was, studying and reading everything to prepare for this moment with you, your fun facts to know. Can we talk about those a little bit? Krishna, I love them because, I'm like, oh, I'm Enneagram 8. I can resonate with her in this and that and that. I'm human design. I'm not 6'2", but I'm 6'1", So, anywho, so I love that. So, Avalon is your daughter's middle name, and you chose to take it as your last name, correct?
I did because
Mm,
the last name that I had he was not my biological father. He was the
right.
man my mom chose to marry to come back into town, and he's on my birth certificate. He's not somebody that I wanted to be
Good.
connected to anymore. So yeah, and at the time, I was married and there's nobody else's last name, so I chose her middle name, and I mean, I love it. It confuses people because I have this like name that has Hindu resonance in a big way,
Yes.
and then I have this like Irish mystic Avalon folklore
I
name, but
love it.
it's
Krishna, you're one of my favorite people right now. Just the fact that Krishna said, I didn't like my last name, I changed it. That's the power of decision right there. And anybody that has the courage to do what they want in this life, it has my deepest respect. And and then you share, let me just go here. I have the notes here. Um, you are Leo, right? We have a couple of astrologer friends that will be like, well, what is her sign? You are Leo. You are total Leo, Krishna. I mean, just the fact I don't like that last name, I'm changing it. That's it. You know. But you are
yeah.
also a really caring person, so it makes sense to me, not because you are Leo, but because of your choices that you really deeply care for the healing and the transformation of those you serve. Correct?
So much so, it is absolutely my purpose on earth here
Mm.
to love and be loved and hold space for people to come back to themselves and then feel truly empowered as creators.
Mm. Wow. And then I love that you said and you had to explain to me, I'm original from Mexico, and when I read something like this, I think literal, Krishna, okay? I love to go until I hit the pillow. Please, just for my conscious understanding. It sounds really deep, but however, tell me what is this? What is
Yeah.
Krishna doing in this?
Well, in English, we say that that's what somebody does when they go and go and go until they fall asleep. And so, as
Ah,
a generator, my human design is a generator, and a generator loves to go, 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 but doing only what they love, not just running around creating burnout, doing a bunch of stuff that's not inspiring. I love to do what lights me up, and I have energy to go until I just hit the pillow. Whereas my daughter, in her human design, and this was really helpful for me to know, is she's a projector. She gets really tired. And so, as
oh,
the quote unquote only child, my conditioning might have said, oh, as an only child, she's going to turn out weird if she's in her bedroom by herself for 4 hours. No, she needs that. She's so content in there by herself, drawing and reading, and she needs to decompress after she's been out in the world being social.
oh, I love that. I love that. This is to bring awareness more to the parents because, I have found human design. I interviewed my first interview for my first podcast that I did was the author of the Gene Keys, that he has based a lot of his work on human design, Richard Roth. And we talked a lot about these human design and Gene Keys and all of that. And I find it fascinating and so accurate most of the times, not all of the times, but most of the times, which leads me my comment to the I love that you said, I don't like to be bossed around. Well, especially the Enneagram 8. And that's you are your own authority. You have to do a lot of work to gain your word back, to gain yourself, say the safe sense of self, right? And to help others do so. So I love that. But I want to ask you, tell me a little bit about your animal guide, and we're almost done. For me in my meditation, it's a white buffalo and a jaguar. Have always been the white buffalo and a jaguar. And you see a white tiger in meditation and cobras, and you are terrified of snakes. What do you think of this? What do you make of this?
I know, right?
Mm.
Um, yeah, I definitely identify with the big cats of the animal kingdom, whether it's a
Mm.
jaguar or a panther. I have seen white tiger quite a bit at the end of pranayama breath work, where we're just integrating, and it can be hallucinogenic, um,
Yes.
and where you're traveling to different dimensions. And I have had a white tiger just walking with me several
Mm.
times. And then I've had a couple of shamans tell me, who I trusted in their vision, who also would tell me they saw a cobra on each side of me, which is the
Mm.
medicine totem. So it does make sense. But yeah, I am terrified of snakes.
But isn't that funny? Where we're terrified, like homeopathy works like this, right? They give you the remedy of the same poison. Like if a wasp or a bee bites you or stings you, the remedy in homeopathy is called apis mellifica, which comes from the sting of the bee. Isn't that
Yeah.
interesting? So you are terrified, but you have these cobra protectors that are the sign of illumination and enlightenment and the awakening of the Kundalini. Very powerful, beloved Krishna. I'm so grateful you came and you stopped by to our podcast, that you are helping people choose their own path and be more connected with their intuitive them, right? The intuitive you, that you facilitate transformation, that you come from a really honest background of having done these, that you do for others, for yourself. I mean, for me, that's huge. That's very powerful. And I believe people like you, Krishna, and all of us that have gone through the deep mud, through the deep water, right? Through the deep darkness, the deep shadow, like in the hero's journey, right? To the deep, almost lost, the kind of the moment of the hero's rebirth, if he makes it, right? If he defeats his own personal dragons and the fears and the past and all of that, I believe we have a duty and a responsibility to keep sharing. So I'm super happy that you're offering your coaching modality to help people transform, to use your tools that you have to help them really be connected with who they are. So, Krishna, I'm so grateful. And we have a last piece on the podcast. It's a ritual that we have. We ask our beloved guests if they will grant a blessing to our audience. A lot of our audience is in Latin America. So, and they speak English. So, if you will grace us with a blessing, how will we close this podcast today, Krishna?
Beautiful. May you all be blessed with the clear connection to the brilliance of who you are, and maybe you find your way to being the empowered creator of your life. You are a limitless being, capable of so much more than you can even imagine. And that's my wish for you.
Wow. Aho, amen, ashe, all the good words. Wow, this was deep. Thank you, beloved Krishna. And you do, sister. I love. Plus, I love your humor. I would love to sit with you one day. And like,
Me too.
ah, this will
Me
be
too. Me
fantastic.
too.
Mm.
Please.
Oh yeah, we will. Yeah, I mean,
Okay, please.
I make such good friends through the podcast. Like people are like, Yvonne, meet this, and I'm like, the podcast. This is like a spiritual hub. Like you are a generator. I'm a, what is it in human design? I'm a manifestor generator. So we are in like, we're collaborating. We're in the same pool, the same ocean, serving the same purpose with different skills. And I'm so loving your skills, Krishna. Send a big blessing, big happy birthday to your daughter. Avalon, we send you big, big love. And anybody that would like to connect with Krishna and experience her healing modality, especially the transformation, I really recommend that. I could feel it. Her voice, the transmission guides you into that. My nervous system is so calm. Like, I'm like, thanks so much for the session, Krishna. It's like, welcome to my podcast and thank you for the session you gave me. So everybody, we'll make sure that we give you Krishna's website, her media. She is gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous soul within and without, and with very powerful transmission. So go follow her, go connect with her. She has packages of sessions, etc. And we'll make sure that we put everything for you to have it easy and simple for you to stay connected to your intuition and transform. Beloved Krishna, thank you so much. And everybody else, thank you so much for listening, for helping us grow our podcast. As you know, we don't advertise like everybody else does. We are the believers. We have a core value in all of our companies, in all that we do. Is called the bamboo effect. And that is the Chinese bamboo that grows deep into the mud or deep into the roots for 4 years and then begins to bloom. We believe in earning the right, and we believe that it takes a village not only to raise a child, but to grow a podcast. So help us connect, subscribe, share, and we will be showing up for you all every week with our incredible guest. Thank you so much, beloved Krishna. Everyone will send you a big kiss. Mwah! Un beso. Adios. Thank you for listening to the Spirituality Now podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and share us with a friend. To learn more about how to live more present in the moment and take your faith into action, visit delaflorteachings.com/faith to access the free training of 21 Days of Faith in Action today.